Thinking like a lawyer is law school's claim to fame. But what does it actually mean to think like a lawyer? Does law school, in fact, teach you this skill? And if the value proposition of law school is thinking like a lawyer, what does law school leave out? Hey guys, welcome to The First Year Law School and Lawyering, a podcast all about the two most contradictory points in time in your lawyering journey, the first year of law school and your first year as a lawyer. I am your host, 1L and new lawyer coach, Angela Vorpahl, and you are in the right place if you are heading into law school or just starting out your legal career and you're not 100% sure what in the world is going on, because none of us were at those two moments in time. So you hear this phrase, thinking like a lawyer, thrown around all the time by law schools, by lawyers, by law firms, by regular people, presumably. But I've never found anyone who's able to articulate what it is, what it means, or how to do it. And so I've thought about it quite a bit over these last years of coaching law students and new lawyers. And I don't know that I've nailed it, but here's what I've been able to come up with so far. Number one, you're always questioning everything. So you're questioning the facts or details of something that somebody is telling you. Are you sure that's the only time that Back to the Future is playing in any movie theater in the city? You're questioning the foundation or the source of the information that somebody is giving you. Did you check Airbnb, Booking, Hotels.com, the place itself, straight up Googling it? And you're questioning the conclusions that people are drawing from the information that they have. So you're telling me that Lauren was frustrated by the message you sent simply because she didn't respond. Number two, you're always looking for holes in somebody's conclusions, meaning you're always looking for alternative reasonings or assumptions or arguments as to why a certain set of facts should come out a certain way. So why a political issue is the best way to move forward, or what destination your vacation fund should be used for, or what diet is the best diet to apply nowadays. And number three, and probably most infuriatingly, we're not actually looking for a right answer. We're questioning all of these facts, and we are presenting all of these counter arguments, and we're doing it not necessarily to come to a specific outcome. And the reason for that is because we're trained to actually be able to see any type of situation from both sides. And so identify the pros and cons as to why one outcome could be the most beneficial, and the pros and cons and arguments as to why another outcome could be the most beneficial. So does thinking like a lawyer make you a really annoying daughter or son or friend or partner? Yes, it does. But does it also make you a really good lawyer? Yeah, it does. Because this is what we are trained for. This is the idea behind the expertise of being a lawyer, is we look for these holes in facts. We look for these holes in reasoning. We look for these alternative arguments we can make as to why a certain conclusion or a certain outcome could be just as fair, just as accurate, just as beneficial. Now, the question is, does law school help us to think like a lawyer? And I know that I give law schools a very hard time on how the law is taught and how the law is tested, because there are a lot of flaws in both of those systems in law school. And I would also say that, yes, I do think that law school, to a certain extent, does help us develop this ability to think like a lawyer. And the main way that that is presented and practiced is through the medium of cases. So in law school, you are presented the different rules of law, usually through the context of a case, a written judicial opinion in a lawsuit that happened previously in time. And what cases can show us is two fact patterns that are very similar, where judges applied the same rule of law and came to different conclusions. And so that begins to have our wheels turn in thinking through what is the reasoning that the court used on a factual basis, a legal basis, a policy basis, as to why those very same set of facts should come out a different way. The other thing that cases can show us, which is equally as valuable, are two different sets of facts. So two completely different sets of facts applying the same rule of law, coming out differently. And so we can see, all right, what was it about the individual facts or the reasoning of the court that led them to come out differently. And what then that allows us to do is on a new fact pattern, one that we've never seen before, we can make arguments to say, well, this set of facts should come out this way because of these factual, legal, and policy reasons. Alternatively, or counter argument, these facts should come out this way because of these factual, legal, or policy arguments. So slowly over time, over repetition, the idea is that we can start to begin to develop this skill or this habit of looking at a situation, a set of facts from different angles and from different reasoning standpoints and come to different conclusions and have that be a good thing, a value add, an expertise, a skill that allows us to represent anybody in any legal matter that we choose. Now, side note, is this concept of thinking like a lawyer very nebulous and theoretical and intangible? Yes, it is. So if you are heading into law school and you're like, this is great, this sounds interesting, but what do I actually do to get these physical pages, these physical cases, learn them, apply them in a way that's going to get me points on a final exam and set myself up for the 1L grades that I actually want? You are in the right place. Definitely grab your spot in my free 1L masterclass. If you're on YouTube, you can click up here. If you're listening on Spotify, you can click on the link in the show notes. And we're going to walk through the 3 must-haves to build out a rock-solid 1L grade strategy and the 3 biggest mistakes that I see new 1Ls making all the time that prevent them from going after the grades that they're truly capable of. So I'm excited for this. I will see you guys in there. Click on the link to grab your free spot. Now, is thinking like a lawyer the only thing that law school taught me? I would say the answer to that is no. There are a couple of other things that I did take away from law school, in all fairness. And I would say the next one is how to do legal research and the basics of how to do legal writing. And so when you're a 1L, you guys are going to have a mandatory class called Legal Research and Writing. And in your first semester, you are going to write a legal memo. And in your second semester, you're going to write a legal brief. And that is the only skills course that you are going to be taking your 1L year, which is arguably real nuts, but at least there's one, right? At least there's one skills course that they're going to teach you. And because of that, surprise, surprise, that is what law firms are going to ask you to do as a 1L summer associate, a 2L summer associate, and a first year associate, because they know that's the only thing you know how to do. And so when you are in 1L year, if you are lucky enough to get a good legal research and writing professor, which tend to be fairly rare, but if you get a good one, they will show you how to go about using these huge legal databases, usually Westlaw or Lexis, to go and look for cases that are similar in facts, in rule, and in jurisdiction to a situation that you were being presented with. That is the entirety of legal research, is go find cases that have decided your issue under this rule in your jurisdiction in the past, so that you can then say, look, partner or judge or who was ever asking you to write and research this thing, our situation is so similar to these other cases that it should come out the same way. Or our situation is so different than these cases and therefore should come out the opposite way. So that's the whole idea behind the legal research and writing. And I did have, luckily, a very good 1L legal research and writing professor. Shout out Professor Stobaugh. But if you get a good one, then that is a skill, arguably 2 skills, legal research and legal writing, that you can take away from law school. Another skill that I would say that law school did give me would be basic trial lawyer skills. Now, I will say that this was only and exclusively the result of one course that I took in law school, which was the Criminal Justice Clinic. And so it really was only the consequence of what this one supervising attorney, the professor in this course, did for us. But he was amazing, and he taught us how to actually voir dire a jury. He taught us how to make opening statements and closing arguments. He taught us how to draft direct examinations and cross-examinations. He taught us how to object to evidence coming in. And he just poured his heart and soul into everything that clinic was. And because it was a criminal defense clinic, we had 20 plus cases that we were in charge of. So we also got to see the step-by-step, play-by-play process of how you take a case from filing, I think it's called, in the criminal justice system, all the way to jury verdict. And so that was really, really amazing to see. I will also say, though, that that is not particularly common in law school. But if you guys do have a criminal defense clinic, I highly recommend checking it out if you think you might be interested in learning those trial lawyer steps and abilities. And I guess I will also say that the two regrets that I have kind of on this piece would be, one, I never actually got to go to trial in the criminal defense clinic. So that was really kind of the luck of the draw, which of these cases, misdemeanor cases, that the district attorneys were going to take to trial versus plead out. But none of my cases went to trial, so I didn't actually get to do this in a courtroom. I just got to practice it in front of our supervising attorney. So that would have been really awesome to have done and actually have gone to trial as a first chair or a second chair in a real criminal trial. And then the other regret that I would have on this piece is I never went out for mock trial or moot court, meaning a mock trial situation with a pretend set of facts, or moot court, a pretend set of facts for an appellate brief, an appellate oral argument. And even though these were and are widely known as the most substantive extracurriculars, mock trial and moot court, the thinking at the time, and even still today, is that law review is the most prestigious extracurricular. And because law review takes up so much time, and because mock trial and moot court take up so much time, it's very difficult to do both. And because a lot of big law firms and federal judges, if you're interested in a judicial clerkship, see or explicitly communicate that law review is a required or a preferred for your resume, that was enough to get me to put all of my eggs in the law review basket and skip out on mock trial and moot court. So if I had to go back and do it again, I still think I would have made the same decision because big law and a federal judicial clerkship were my career goals. But it is a bit of a disappointing reality that you have to make that choice in most cases. And that may mean you miss out on a really substantive, really engaging ability or opportunity to develop these trial lawyer skills. And then another skill, I suppose, I could give law school credit for teaching me is how to interview. Not because law school actually taught me what to say or how to say it or how to prepare or really anything about the steps or strategies, but simply by creating this pressure cooker experience of OCI, or on-campus interviewing, where a ton of law firms and legal organizations and government agencies come to campus, usually at the beginning of your second semester of 1L year and at the beginning of your 2L year, to interview you for 1L summer positions and 2L summer positions. And so if you're able to and willing to take full advantage of this OCI process and fortunate enough to get a lot of these screener interviews and be chosen for these screener interviews, you can really go to town on all of these interviews and become an interviewing machine. And that is exactly what I did. I did 28 interviews in 4 days, so 7 interviews per day on average. And I got really good at knowing what anecdotes and experiences were resonating with these different law firm interviewers, how to articulate the skills and experiences and the things that I was bringing to the table, how to ask questions and really create a conversation with the lawyer that I was interviewing with, and how to really communicate interest and excitement in working for a law firm, even if I didn't know that much about it, and even if I didn't know exactly what they did or what they were going to hire me for. And so just simply going through this process really, really, really helped me become an up level, I guess I will say, my interviewing skills based solely on the existence of the experience itself. So if those are the things that law school did teach me, what are the things that law school didn't teach me? And the short answer is literally everything else. And so one of the biggest holes in legal education is actually teaching us the day-to-day skills and tasks and projects of being a practicing lawyer. So on the litigation side, that's going to be doing things like drafting written discovery. So drafting interrogatories, requests for production, requests for admissions, On the transactional side, I assume that is the skill of looking at a really long contract and making changes to it. Law school is not going to teach you the more advanced steps of how to, in the course of litigation, do a deposition or write an expert report or motions practice or pretrial, an actual trial, if you're not lucky enough to have an amazing supervising attorney in a criminal justice clinic. And on the transactional side, I assume more advanced things like talking to a lot of people on conference calls that help to tell you what information to put in the contract and negotiate it. So yeah, the day-to-day practices of being an actual lawyer. Another thing that law school doesn't teach you is what type of law you want to practice. And I know we talked about this in another podcast episode, but because law school doesn't actually teach you the day-to-day of what being a lawyer in these different practice areas look like, and because courses are wildly academic in nature, and because they are not skills-based, and because we get so few bites at the apple for substantive experience in law school, it makes it very difficult, if not impossible, to actually have a data-based, data-driven understanding and conclusion as to what type of law you want to practice. So that can be really frustrating and difficult to know where you should be putting your energy and effort and where you might want to pursue your legal career, because those really important pieces are missing. And another really big category that law school doesn't teach, and that winds up being a huge deal when you graduate, is business development. And this was such a shock to me when I started practicing at a law firm, that you spend all of this time and all of these years and all of this energy and effort learning how to be, or trying to learn how to be, a really, really good lawyer, right? Developing that expertise, developing the skills, developing these abilities. And then you get to a law firm and you realize at some point down the road, they're going to expect you to actually develop client business, to actually go out into the real world, find a person or a company and convince them that you can solve their legal problem and have them hire you to do that. And so, because that's not ever talked about in law school, it is a huge shock when you hear it for the first time. And it's really tough. It's a really tough pill to swallow, because so many of us went to law school to be legal experts, to be lawyers, professional lawyers. And most of us did not go to law school because we have any interest in developing client business or being entrepreneurs. And so that is absolutely an opportunity that law schools could take to at least begin to introduce this idea and the steps and the strategies for how client business is developed, how you can start early to develop relationships long term. Because I guarantee you, law firms are not going to teach it to you. They're just going to expect you to be able to do it. And so, yeah, that's a big hole, a big gaping hole in our legal education as well. So those are the things that I would say that law school did teach me, and the things that law school didn't teach me. If you are in law school or you've gone through law school, I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Feel free to drop a comment if you're watching on YouTube, or a comment if you're listening on Spotify. And let me know what you think law school did and did not give you, and what it could do better, because there are a lot of things that law school could improve. And even though law school is completely enamored with this idea of thinking like a lawyer, there are so many other tangible, practical things that law school could offer us, especially since we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars in 3 years of time. I think there's a lot more that can be added to the curriculum that really helps us become proficient and capable lawyers when we graduate. And so if you guys are still listening and you took something away from this episode and you liked it and you want me to keep making these, then definitely consider giving it a 5-star rating, writing a review, subscribing on YouTube, so that you're notified every time a new episode comes out, and so that I know that this is even stuff that you guys want to keep hearing. So I hope that this was helpful, insightful, entertaining, and I will see you guys in the next one.